Hello, fellow Webtoon fans and creators. I'm Audrey, and this is the Webtoon Wave podcast. Today, I am joined by Kin, the creator of the adorably wholesome webcomic Love Cycle on Webtoon. Welcome to the podcast, Kin.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm also very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Yeah.
Okay, let's get into it.
Okay.
So, give us an introduction to you and how you got into making a webcomic.
Hello, my name is Kin, and I'm the author of Love Cycle on Webtoon. So I've been making comics since I was a kid, and because I like anime and I like shoujo manga, and I've made a lot of stories when I grew up. So Love Cycle, I've said this before to my audience, but I'll just say it again. Love Cycle is a story I made when I was 13. Like the Love Cycle concept was made by when I was 13, and then uh the characters were different from other stories that I did when I was in school, but I kind of just meshed it all up, like meshed every single like story I had and then put it into one story and call it Love Cycle for
Oh, wow.
yeah, and then I just posted it on Webtoon, and yeah, and somehow I ended up here. Yeah.
Somehow, you put a lot of hard work into it.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, I did.
So you started publishing Love Cycle on Canvas in 2021, right?
Yeah, during COVID. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you
Mm.
discover like Webtoon?
So I don't remember exactly what the dates were, but I remember I used to be on Facebook and uh, Wishroom. Wishroom, nice to meet you. Webtoon, nice to meet you.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah. So back then, when I was in school, she was like one of my inspirations, I guess, because she used to be a Malaysian comic artist for a local
Mm-hmm.
company, and she posted about it on Facebook that she was making Nice to Meet You on Discover back then,
Mm-hmm.
and like literally the reason why I downloaded Tapastic and Webtoon was because she wanted to read her webtoon.
Yeah, I really adore the wholesome comics. Like, I feel like Love Cycle is just a breath of fresh air
Mhm.
to read because there's just I won't say what comics, but there's a lot of
Um,
just not there's a lot of like toxic tropes and like just craziness.
oh,
That's why I love reading Love Cycle. It's
oh,
comforting.
thank you. Oh, thank you.
So you have been drawing since you were a little kid, right? Your art style is very soft and colorful and playful. How did you find your art style?
So in the beginning of Love Cycle, I think I just wanted it to look pastel-y because I've always
Mm-hmm.
liked pastel colors, and
Yeah.
something that I've wanted my webtoon to look like was to look like a shoujo manga kind of
Mm.
look because I've always liked shoujo growing up. That's why there's a lot of sparkles in my art.
Mm-hmm.
And something that I also want my art style to look like is because I before Love Cycle I was a traditional artist. I do watercolor. I really
Mm.
wanted my art style, my digital art style to look watercolor-ish. Like in the
Yeah.
beginning you couldn't really tell that, but I think like in the later chapters of Love Cycle you could kind of tell that I tried to make it look more like watercolor. I want it to
Mm-hmm.
look like my traditional art. I don't think I'm 100% there yet, but I love experimenting on Clip Studio Paint, like
Yeah.
textures and like all the new brushes. I enjoy doing that, and I
Mm.
think that's how I got my art style. Like that's my vision at least. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's just so cute and aesthetic and I love
Oh,
looking at
thank you.
it.
Thank you. I
um
still like experimenting every single episode. So
it's fun to experiment because
mm,
like I feel like we as artists always have room to grow and improve
yeah,
and
character.
I think you get that by just experimenting and trying out what you
Yeah,
like.
it makes your journey as a webtoon creator also a lot more fun rather than
Yeah.
just trying to focus on getting it done, just focusing on like trying to make it look perfect. But sometimes like when you kind of just let yourself play around with the brushes and the textures, it makes the journey more fun, at least for me. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Especially with Clip Studio, they have a lot of free
Yeah.
brushes and
Yeah.
textures and all of that.
Yeah. It makes it so much more fun.
So how did you come up with the story? Like give us a synopsis of Love Cycle and then how did you come up with the story?
So Love Cycle is about a girl who wrote, a story about her crush in this book of her, and then one day this other guy finds it and makes fun of her for it. And as the story unfolds, without giving too much spoiler, Love Cycle happens. So if you know, you know. Yeah. So
Mhm.
when I was 13, when I did a story called Love Cycle, um back then I was reading a lot of shoujo, and there were a lot of, it was kind of like a parody in a way, because back then Love Cycle was just comedy and making fun of a lot of shoujo tropes.
Mhm.
Uh, but like the current life cycle, love cycle, I decided that I wanted to give it an actual plot. So
Mhm.
I changed the set of the characters of the love cycle, and the characters that I did use were from stories that I did like as a kid as well, but other stories. Like I just
Mhm.
meshed them, right?
Yeah.
Uh so my intention with Alicia, I feel like not everyone would understand, but Alicia's original story when I was younger. So it was supposed to be like your typical shoujo manga, right? But
Mhm.
based on the villain's POV, you know how in
Mm.
shoujo there's a couple, and then there's this other like childhood friends who's like obsessed with the main guy, but like
Yeah.
that was what Alicia was based off of.
Mm.
Back then, the story that I made, it was called Non Heroine.
Mm.
It's pretty similar with this other manga, like actual manga, but at that time I didn't know that manga existed. But for
Mm.
my story, it was called Non Heroine. And when I was making Love Cycle, I remember I really enjoyed making Non Heroine back then, and that's why I decided that Alicia would be my main character,
Mhm.
because I've always thought characters that are dramatic or funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I enjoy writing characters that are dramatic, and like it's good for, I guess, the humor, the comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love like in Sailor Moon, I love
Mhm.
how dramatic and over the top Usagi is like all the time. Yeah. I like the just adding that kind of comedy to it makes it really fun.
For me, when I first started Love Cycle, I wanted to be something I could have fun with, because I was studying and I was very stressed out with my studies as well. So I wanted my comic to be somewhere I could just be, I guess, be funny. I guess like try
Mhm.
to loosen up myself. Don't think about things that are too serious too much. I want it to be easy, and I guess kind of I want it for it to be like an escape from reality, kind of like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wanted everything to be just let myself be like goofy, let myself be kind of dumb, and just
Mhm.
yeah, with the story. And that's why I really enjoy making Love Cycle.
Yeah. I can see the passion and
Oh,
how much you just like love doing it.
oh, thank you. I'm glad. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah.
So, were you thinking that you were going to get an originals offer? Was
Oh,
that something that you like thought about
mhm.
wanting in the beginning?
the beginning, in like the real, like really beginning, I guess. It was kind of for, if I had to be 100% honest, uh, I didn't really expect Love Cycle to be where it is right now, and
Mm-hmm.
I really just wanted to escape life, I guess. I
Yeah.
just I just wanted to have like a place where I could be just goofy, I guess, like goofy and silly.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I made Love Cycle. But as I was doing Love Cycle, there was like a part of me, oh, it would be cool to be like an to experience to be an original.
Mm-hmm.
But like I want to be 100% honest with this, but I felt like I lacked a lot of skills
Mm.
because before Love Cycle, I was a traditional artist, and if you know the traditional artist struggle, like we're not that good. I'm still like learning, obviously, and I thought maybe I could become an original, but maybe not with Love Cycle. I felt like I didn't have like enough skill in both storytelling and art back then.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow one day Webtoon reached out and asked like, "Do you want to be in, part of originals?"
Yeah.
And I was very happy. If I had to be honest, it was for me at least, it was a lot earlier than I expected
Mm-hmm.
because maybe it's like my imposter syndrome or whatever, but I didn't really think I was that skilled enough. I felt like I had a lot to learn as a comic creator.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously I was thrilled because I got the offer right after I ended my studies.
Mm. Good
So I felt,
timing.
yeah, it was it was like a surprising coincidence for me, and I feel like it just lined up too well to not accept it. And I
Yeah.
thought, um, I'm like jobless right now. I'm actually free. Like I just ended my studies, and it would and like being an original. Like I've always wanted to be an original. I just
Mm-hmm.
didn't expect it to come at that time, but
Yeah.
I still wanted to take up the challenge. I want to learn, um, even though like I lack in a lot of things. I want to learn from Webtoon, like with my editor and all that. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so my editor is like also very helpful.
So, what was it like moving from Canvas to originals? Like, what was the process like? And maybe kind of get into like what pitching your series was like?
Pitching my story.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned that you need a hook, which is like pretty
Yeah.
basic. When I was on Canvas, like when I first started, I didn't know that you needed to have a hook or outline, an ending. I just
Yeah.
did it. Like I
Yeah.
really came like unprepared. Like I just came here because I wanna just have fun,
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah.
And then uh, when I first got the contract, um, they told me to like prepare a few things like the hook, the what what's what's your story about, your summary, and
Mm-hmm.
eventually after you kind of already describe those things, um after that you do the outline for season 1, season 2.
Mm-hmm.
mm, and then uh you don't need to be very detailed with the outline, but yeah, it serves a purpose where you don't get too lost when making your story.
So, was it nerve-wracking working with him?
I think he was very nice.
Mm-hmm.
I think like he was very supportive as well. Like before launch, there were times where I kind of worried. I overthink a lot sometimes because I kept thinking that I lack a lot of things. But obviously, I know that's like not a good mindset, and I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
improve that. But I did worry a lot, and I think my editor has reassured me a lot
Mm-hmm.
too. And yeah, I'm grateful for that. It was very nervous. It made me like launching the series uh because it was my first story. I was very nervous and very anxious about
Yeah.
what people would think.
Mm-hmm.
But something that if I could kind of just tell her and past me is just everything will be all right.
Well, it can definitely be
Mm.
scary
Mm.
putting something like this out into the world, especially in front of like a bigger audience.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've seen that the audience for original comics and then the audience for Canvas or indie
Oh.
comics are like very different.
Oh yeah,
Like
that's
they
true.
have
That's
different
true.
standards.
Oh yeah, they do. I think I feel like Canvas they're a little bit, at least in my experience, they're nicer.
Hmm.
They're like more supportive in a way. Like I feel like or on originals they're more direct
Yeah.
on what they
Yeah,
feel
more
like.
they
Yeah.
say what their opinion is.
Oh yeah.
Like,
But yeah, I feel like I don't really have any hate, so I think it's fine. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
But I did worry about it before launching, but I feel like you can't really control what people think of your story, so don't think
Yeah.
about it too much. Just focus on having fun and like what you want to do with your story, so just go for it.
So tell me about your process of relaunching on originals. Like, what did you do during that time to kind of improve your art or be
Mm,
faster? Like, what did you do during that time to prepare for originals?
uh well, like I've said, you had to prepare the summary and then you do the outline, and then I didn't necessarily like try to improve. I just let myself improve over time,
Hmm.
kind of. I Yeah, I did. Because Love Cycle on Canvas, if I had to be honest, isn't planned out very well. I tried to replan everything, like try to make it more structured so I don't get lost.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's why you need an outline. For me, the outline was um based on chapters.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I just after doing the outline, I would do the first 3 episodes and send it to my editor and ask if it's okay, because the first
Hmm.
3 episodes are supposedly the most important, right?
Hmm.
So you need to work on it like more.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Make the first 3 episodes your
Yeah,
strongest
yeah.
episodes.
Yeah, I took a long time to do the first 3 episodes, but afterwards you kind of like you understand a little bit more of what you're doing, and
Hmm.
yeah, it becomes easier as times go.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you kind of just learn as you go because you're drawing every
Mm.
day and releasing
Yeah,
weekly episodes. So you definitely probably experience a lot of growth during that time.
I feel like Love Cycle in general, I've learned a lot ever since I was on campus. I think I've learned a lot in terms both art and storytelling. I think
Hmm.
yeah, I'm very grateful for the opportunity of being an original as well, because you kind of have an editor to help you out and kind of
Hmm.
point out, oh, this should be like this, and it's been helpful, at least for me.
So you get along with your editor really well.
I think so. Yeah, I think I'm getting well. Like everything's fine. Yeah.
I know a lot of originals creators experiences with their editors are different, like depending on who they have. Um, some of them, their editors are really involved a lot, and then others are kind of editor like they'll submit an episode for approval before they publish, and that's about it. What is it like working with your editor? Like, is are they like super involved all the time, or they kind of just like leave you to do what you want to do?
Well, first I would like draft and give my ideas, give my opinions on things, and then they would comment on it. And then if they feel like some parts needs to, like, they would teach me. Like I remember, like they would just comment on, oh, this panel shouldn't be too big because it's not that important, stuff
Hmm.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I feel like in the beginning there was a lot of comments like that. like a lot of how you should like write your bubbles to look your speech bubbles to look a little bit cleaner, and, and stuff like that. It was mostly comments like that. I wouldn't say that I talk to them like 24/7 obviously,
Yeah.
but whenever I do have a question or like I want feedback on something, they're usually pretty fast at replying. So yeah, I think with my editor, it's like, yeah, I think he's very good.
So now that you're releasing episodes every week, well, I mean, uh, the first season of Love Cycle ended in last May, right?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's really common for creators who
Mhm.
are releasing weekly episodes to get burned out.
Uh,
Um, do you have experience with getting burned out while you've been doing this?
I think I have, but I usually allow myself to take a break, and that's why buffers are there for you,
Mm.
right? To keep you like consistent. Yeah, I do feel like sometimes burnout also comes from when you have a certain expectations toward yourself and you're not meeting it, and that's why you like lost passion or like don't want to do it anymore. And that's why I feel like it's very important to go back and really remember why you're making this. It's because of you, because you enjoy it. And yeah,
Yeah.
allow yourself to take breaks when you want to. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it, you know, I think it could
Mhm.
be really hard, especially if there are creators that are, they're making a webcomic, but they don't have a buffer. Like
Oh,
it's hard, it can be hard to keep up. And I think, like, from what I've heard, generally, I think Webtoon wants you to have like 15 total
I,
episodes done before launch. Yeah. What are some things that you do for yourself to try and overcome burnout, or maybe if you're struggling one day, like what are some things that help you do overcome it?
I feel I usually put my phone away, very, very far away, because I feel like a lot of the reasons my overthinking comes from my phone. So I think just letting yourself do nothing,
Hmm.
stare at the ceiling, touch grass sometimes.
Get some
Like
sun on your face.
yeah, like do other things. Oh, yeah, for me that works. And just let yourself do other things, I guess. Don't some because I feel like burnout comes from, like I said, like expectations. When you judge your work too much because it's not good enough, for example. I feel like burnout comes from that,
Yeah.
because if you're like not taking things too seriously and you're just having fun, usually that burnout wouldn't come in my
Hmm.
experience. I feel like the stress comes when you keep thinking about what other people think.
Yeah. And it's hard not to do that, especially, you know, being webcomic creators where we have so much passion and love for our series,
Mhm.
but it's hard to not compare yourself to other creators. I don't know if that's what you struggle with. Um,
I think I've struggled with that, but at the same time, I think that's more of like a past thing. I don't really compare myself as much. Kind of just let myself just do whatever. Yeah, because I feel like as long as you enjoy what you're doing, it will be okay. You will eventually learn as you go. So yeah.
I think it's really hard to also deal with the like expectations in the beginning, you
Uh,
know, and I hear a lot of aspiring creators or beginner creators complaining about their numbers not having the amount of subscribers that they want, maybe not having as many comments or whatever. Um, and I like it. I feel like it's hard to not do that. Um, because we want people to like our work and we want it to be received well. And when it's not, it can hurt a little
I
bit.
Oh, that's true. I feel like something that I tell myself is to try your best without any expectations, because I feel like a lot of good things happen to you when you least expect it, so don't have any expectations. So yeah, but I understand what you mean, because sometimes you work hard and then you realize like you don't get the feedback that you want.
Yeah.
But
And
you have to like go back to yourself. Always like don't think about it too much. You have to like keep on going. You shouldn't give up regardless of what happens. Yeah.
and I have a lot of mutuals that are like really talented and they get discouraged a lot. And I'm just sitting here like, you are so talented and amazing. Why are you getting down on yourself?
It's hard, but I feel like you should really focus on what you can control. Like you can't really control what people think of you. You can't really control if they like your series or not. That's why you should care less about things that you have no control over, because it like you can be sad, you can complain about not getting feedback, but the harsh truth is it's not gonna just magically appear. Like the readers are not just gonna magically appear. That's kind of the harsh truth to it. That's why you have to like focus on things that are within your control, which is like trying to improve, trying to make a better, like trying to keep on going and see how it goes.
Yeah. I think that's really good advice and good things to keep in mind being webcomic creators. I feel like the main thing is to just do it because you love it and it brings you joy and not worry about what people are going to say or the numbers or if people like it. Um, but it's like in my experience, like I've always maintained that mentality about it. Like I just do it because I love it. Even if my comic had like 100 subs or less, I'd still do it because it makes me really happy. Um, but I like on Webtoon in particular, we have the rating system. I feel like with the rating system on Webtoon,
Mhm.
it can be really damaging for creators.
Oh
Like
yeah,
if
that's true.
they get poorly rated, it can feel discouraging.
It's one of the reasons why I don't like to judge a story based off the rating, because I think that people they're not good at rating. Sometimes I feel like some people aren't good at rating things, because I've read a lot of like low rating stories and then I read it. It's actually good. Like what are people on? Yeah.
And I feel like it happens to a lot of people. One of my mutuals, she's on Canvas, and her rating dropped really drastically just recently. I
Oh,
won't say who it is, but um, and she was like, "What the heck did I do? Like, why is this happening?" And her comic is absolutely amazing. It's incredible. Um, and like I see the value that it has. And so I think I think it may stem from people being jealous or whatever it is. I don't even know the motivations, but um that's why I don't pay attention to ratings. So I'm
yeah,
like,
me too.
it doesn't determine the value and the quality of the comic. Um there's so many I've read that are in the 8 range or something um that are really good. And yeah, I don't know. I've seen it hurt a lot of creators. Um, but I think people should go off of like what people are saying in the comments and not what the rating is.
Yeah, that's true. But it's like kind of unavoidable to feel hurt. Yeah, I could understand why people could could be hurt with a lot of things, but you
Mm.
just have to keep on going. Is Yeah, I feel like you just have to keep on going and get used to like things like that. People, it's easy to hate online. That's just how it is. It's easy to
Yeah.
hate online, but it's not easy to make a story, make a webtoon. So don't be a hater.
Yeah. Like I feel like if those people knew how difficult it is to make a webcomic, they
Yeah,
would probably change their mind
I feel
about the
like
things
if
they
you,
say.
mm, yeah, it's like it's easy to hate. You just type and then you leave. You just type on the keyboard and then you can just leave. So
Yeah.
that's why, and yeah, it's easy to rate people very low as well. That's just how
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also just something you can't control, so like why worry about it?
Yeah, but I think it's like natural. Like it's normal to feel sad that your story isn't like getting the love that you think it deserves, for example. But I do feel like at the end of the day, the harsh reality is you can't control it, and you just have
Yeah.
to move on.
And like I have personal experience with it, and at first it really disappointed me. I was like, what the heck? Why did this happen? What what's going on? When it happened, I was like disappointed and confused, but I what helped me was thinking about like the story itself and how much I love
Mhm,
creating it and
mhm.
all those parts in the story that I want to get to in the future. And I was like, okay, well then I'm not gonna let a rape bomber stop me from doing the thing that I love.
That's true. That's a good mindset. Yeah. I I I remember there was like a few years. I don't know when. I don't remember if, sorry, when I was on Canvas or original, but there was like a time where people bombed a lot of series, and it was pretty bad. But I don't remember when it was. But I think people just don't have, they have too much time to be
Yeah,
hating.
they have too much time on their hands. Yeah. And I feel like it's really common during like contests for it to happen
Mm.
because people
Oh,
think that
oh,
if they
really?
rate bomb other series that it will somehow help their series do better when that's not how that works.
Oh God, people do that. Okay.
Yeah. I mean it's happened since the beginning. In 2015, Webtoon had the Challenge League, and when people entered, they got rate bombed. Like Instant Miso, she entered Where Tangents Meet in that in that contest, and she got rate bombed to a 6.9.
Oh God, that's
Yeah. So
wow.
like even she's, experienced it, but people thought during that contest, and I guess they continually think that if they rate bomb series, it will make their series do better or
I feel like
something.
that's a good motivation for new artists that get rape bombed. Just look at Instant Miso. Like she she got she got bombed too, and she's like doing very well now. You could be like her, so don't be discouraged. Yeah.
And she didn't even win the contest either, and she still got contacted
Oh,
by
that.
Webtoon. Um, so for creators out there who are worried about their rating, just know that it doesn't determine the value, and it doesn't determine the value of your series.
If you're a reader, don't judge someone based off their rating.
I'd say like don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge a webtoon by its rating.
That's true.
Yeah, because I mean, if the art looks decent and the story sounds interesting, I'm gonna click on it. Even if it has like a 7 point something, if it sounds good to me, I'm gonna read it, and you know, and I feel like you know, in this climate on Webtoon, since Webtoon has become so much more popular
Uh,
and more saturated with a lot more comics, people's standards have changed
oh,
over the years.
so this is something my friend told me. She said that after COVID started, the amount of comics like skyrocketed.
Mm-hmm. People had more
So
time, they were at home.
yeah, 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 and because of that, she said the competition has gone higher in a way,
Mm-hmm.
and the standards are also they like skyrocketed as well. Like everything on campus is looks really good. Personally, I think there's a lot of campus that are good there. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot more talent on Webtoon now, and just like Webtoons in general. But I'd say ultimately, like people should just don't have expectations, just enjoy it.
But at the end of the day, like you can't control what they think. People are
Yeah,
gonna hate anyway. Like as long as you're like making something, you're making your story, you're posting it. I think that's good enough.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what would you tell somebody who wants to start creating a webtoon?
Just go for it. I know that the climate has changed and all, but I feel like for you to be good, you need to start.
Yeah.
Like for me, for example, for me when I first started Love Cycle, I would say I underplanned everything. Uh, like I just did it. Like you would hear people say that they have like this is the character design. This is like their whole plot has already been figured out and all that. For me personally, I just went and did it. I didn't really have anything planned out. So I feel like no matter what path you take, as long as you're actually doing it, that's good enough. If you have your story planned out from A to Z or not, as long as you're doing it, I think that's good enough. Just as long as you're doing it.
Yeah. You know, every creator that I've interviewed has said the same thing where it's like if you're wanting to start a webcomic, just start it. Like just you learn a lot along the way.
Yeah, I feel like with Love Cycle, I've learned a lot as well. So that's very true. Like sometimes, even if you don't know what you're doing in the beginning, you kind of just like will eventually know as you start doing it.
And your first webcomic isn't going to be your best one. I feel like people should have more grace with themselves if they're
Mm.
disappointed or if they're not satisfied with their comic. Like they're doing something that's really hard.
Yeah, that's true. Like even for me, yeah, I consider Love Cycle to be my first, and I hope that it's not my best. Like, but I've learned a lot. I feel like just by making a webtoon, you learn so much. It's like you learn a lot of things that you won't know if you don't start. Because you could watch like a million videos on how to make a comic or but if you're not actually starting it, there are things that you won't know until you do it. Like minor things that you didn't realize, oh, this part should be done like this and this part should be done like that. Mm.
So since you've been creating Love Cycle for originals, how if somebody was wondering how they should plan out their story for their webcomic, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to, I guess the proper way is to have a hook. And something that I've learned that is pretty good when you have a story and like you should have one sentence that is based off your story. If you could summarize your story in one sentence, it would be easier to promote your story because like people's attention span, they don't want to hear you talking. Like sometimes it's kind of like that. Uh, so yeah, when you have that done, you think about the ending. What kind of ending do you want? And then uh, you could be very vague in the beginning what your story is about, and then you could detail it a little bit more by doing the outline. Like for me, I do the outline by chapter, by episode,
Yeah.
and then just use that outline as a guideline. You don't really need to be strict on yourself and copy it. Like you have to follow. You don't have to do that. Obviously, you could be a bit more tangible with it, like if you want to change a few things along the way. But I feel like having an outline is good for, I guess, to keep you on track. Like you know where you're going. Yeah, and having a buffer. Yeah, I think having a buffer is very important. Like even though Love Cycle, like I didn't have like the outline plan or anything when it was on Canvas.
Mhm.
Obviously, on originals, I thought of the outline and all, but something that I did on Canvas that saved me was my buffer, because I did do a buffer, but I didn't do a lot. But I feel like the more buffer you have, the more you're going to thank yourself in the long run.
Yeah.
Because I feel like one of the reasons people give up easily also is because they don't have a buffer. Like they can't keep up with the, I guess, consistency of making, like publishing. So that's why you should always have a buffer. It's very important for you to be consistent. I think being consistent is very important for a webtoon creator. Hmm.
I think, it can be hard to be consistent because as indie creators, we have our jobs, we have our lives, and it can be hard to keep up when you have a lot of other responsibilities. But I think people should just do it based on their lifestyle.
Ah,
Like, it's okay to update twice a month, it's okay to update even once a month. Like, just do what's sustainable for you.
the reason why I say consistent, I feel like because the reader could, they would know when to expect your story. So either it's like once a month or twice a month, I feel like as long as you have a um consistent date for them to expect, I think it helps a little bit more for your readers to keep on reading your story, compared to like if you post once now and then you post once this month and once the other month, and then you go on hiatus for a few months. Like you could do that, but I feel like um when, like, the readers don't know when you're posting, so they don't check your story as much. Like if they know when to check your story, it would be easier for them to read your story.
So, what would you tell somebody is the most important thing to keep in mind after they launch their series?
Not to stress out too much.
Mm.
Yeah, I feel like uh at least for me, back then I was an overthinker as well. I I think the best sometimes you just have to stop thinking and just do. Just post, and then don't look at the subscriber count, don't look at the likes, just post and then continue back doing your story and just mind your own business kind of. Yeah, I think trying your best with like, don't have like high expectations towards yourself, but try your best, because things will be, I personally believe that things will be rewarded if you just try to keep your, like, as long as you like what you do and you're trying your best, I think one day you will be rewarded for something. Yeah, you just don't know when.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, even with Rotania, when I talked to her, she was publishing on Canvas for 4 years before she got her offer. So, and sometimes things like that can come sooner, they could come much later. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, just don't have expectations, just enjoy the process. All right, Kin, thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast. It was such a pleasure to talk to you today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I think this was a very fun experience to have. Yeah, I'm also really glad that I get to talk more with people. So yeah. So yeah, I'm very thankful. Thank you for inviting me.
To our listeners, you can go follow Kin on Instagram at CyanKinComics. You can go read Love Cycle on Webtoon. Season 2 will be launching on the 19th. So make sure you read season 1 and get caught up before she launches it. I'm so excited to for it to come back. This is going to be so fun. If you like this episode or if you found it entertaining, give us a like, give us a follow. You can find us on our socials at the Webtoon Wave. You can find us on TikTok, Instagram. You can watch us on YouTube. You can listen to us on Spotify. You can follow us on Instagram at the Webtoon Wave to stay up to date on future guests and news and all things Webtoon content. So stay creative, stay inspired, and we'll see you next time.